The Finisher. The Finisher, hired by the Red Skull, is not your typical villain. This assassin's vendetta against Spider-Man starts with a dark twist. He's responsible for the death of Peter Parker's parents. He tampered with their plane, leading to their tragic demise, and thus, his battle with Spider-Man becomes more than just a fight. It's personal. First showing up in Amazing Spider-Man Annual 5 in 1968, the Finisher tries to take down Spider-Man with a missile. But, as villains often underestimate their heroic opponents, Spider-Man outsmarts him. The hero deflects the rocket right back at the Finisher, effectively giving him a finisher of his own. Oops. While it wasn't Spider-Man's intention to kill him, the results speak for themselves. The Finisher meets a rather explosive end. Little did Spider-Man know that this would be the beginning of his surprisingly high kill count. As the web-slinger's story unfolded, more villains would meet their untimely demise. It was a classic case of trying to kill the spider, but getting caught in his web instead. The Queen. The Queen, a villain with a twist, and not just because she can control insects. Originally an enemy of Captain America, Anna Soria transforms into Queen and becomes a serious thorn in Spider-Man's side. Their first face-off? It's a mess. Spider-Man manages to stop one of Queen's bombs, but things take a turn when more explosions rock her insect-filled hive, leaving her seemingly dead. But Queen didn't stay down. She survived somehow and returned to mess with Spider-Man in the Spider Island crossover. Meanwhile, Marvel gave Spider-Man a significant makeover, making his webbing organic, as in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. Here's the truth. The Queen is not just a threat. She also plays a massive role in a wild twist, mutating Spider-Man into a giant spider, and then back to his usual self with organic webbing. Yeah, things got pretty weird. Still, Spider-Man beats her, and Queen's eventual death is a fitting explosive exit until she returns for round 2. Drom. Let me introduce you to Drom, one of the most bizarre villains in Spider-Man's world. Now, Drom has a little quirk. He lives his life backward. Yeah, you heard that right. He grows younger instead of older, which is already weird. But the real kicker is that he's somehow kept alive only because of a mirror that holds his identity. Talk about a reflection of his weirdness, right? Things get even stranger when Spider-Man teams up with Iron Fist to take him down. During their battle, they hear Drom's sad backstory and realize that Drom's powers could suck the energy right out of them. So, to avoid becoming his next meal, Spider-Man does the only thing he knows best. He smashes Drom's precious mirror over his head. And just like that, Drom ages backward until he fades away completely. It's one of Spider-Man's more gruesome kills, although he doesn't seem too bothered. After all, it's just another villain who disappears, right? But that's the thing with Spider-Man. Some of his battles come with consequences, and some are darker than others. Gog. Gog is not your average villain. Raised by Kraven the Hunter, this monstrous alien is so strong he could take down a T-Rex without breaking a sweat. Originally from the Hyslip realm, Gog ended up in the Savage Land after a crash landing in a spaceship. Imagine being so tough you can fight an army of dinosaurs and still feel like you're just getting started. Spider-Man doesn't like killing, but he has no choice. On the run from Kraven, Spidey found himself face to face with Gog, who was hunting him down with deadly determination. Spider-Man needed a way out, so he tricked Gog into a quicksand pit. It's not a fair fight, but survival instincts are survival instincts. Ultimately, Gog sank into the quicksand and seemed to suffocate, but I don't think Spider-Man was okay with it. Later, Spider-Man admitted that he felt terrible about leading Gog to a fatal fate. A hero's job is tough, but that doesn't mean it's always clean. And for Spidey, this battle left him feeling a bit sick to his stomach. Master Programmer. Master Programmer is a character who's a bit of a virtual puppeteer in the Spider-Man universe. The Master Programmer isn't just your average villain. He's a mastermind, pulling the strings behind Spider-Man's life for years. The twist is that he knows Spider-Man's secret identity, Peter Parker. He went so far as to create a virtual reality world with neighbors, one of whom ended up being Mary Jane Watson. Talk about taking over someone's life. But here's where it gets really interesting. The Master Programmer wasn't just messing around with Spider-Man's world. He was behind creating major villains like Judas Traveler, Scryer, and Stunner. All of this was part of his plan to mess with Peter and his clone, Ben Reilly. The programmer manipulated tests to make Peter believe he was the clone, leading to chaos. When things finally came to a head, Ben Reilly confronted the programmer. After an intense battle, it looked like the Master Programmer was done for, but nope, he wasn't gone for good. The programmer reappeared in cyberspace and caused even more trouble, erasing Stunner and Mary Jane. A fight between Ben, Peter, and the programmer seemed over, but what happened after that? Well, that's still a mystery, so the Master Programmer is as sneaky and unpredictable as they come, always lurking in the background of Spider-Man's world, trying to control everything from behind the scenes. Next up, Digger, a supervillain with a seriously creepy backstory. Digger wasn't always the mindless zombie-like monster you'd expect. He started life as a group of 13 dead mafia criminals, yes, you heard that right, brought back to life by gamma radiation. Imagine a bunch of brutal mobsters whose bodies were held together by gamma energy, forced to live on as one collective creature with one goal: revenge. Talk about a villain with some serious baggage, but the story gets even crazier. Digger's gamma powers made him super strong, fast, and durable. He could lift tons, crush steel with his hands, and survive bullets like they were nothing. Heck, Spider-Man had a hard time stopping him. The problem was that Digger's body was made of dead guys, and without the constant supply of gamma radiation, he'd fall apart. So, Spider-Man used this to his advantage, pushing him to the limit until Digger collapsed, effectively dying again. But, plot twist, he came back to life thanks to the same strange green door that brought the Hulk back repeatedly. Yep, Digger was immortal in a sense. Now, let's talk power. Digger's brain power was also a little too much to ignore. With the minds of 13 mobsters inside him, he had all their criminal skills and memories. But the truth is that Digger wasn't current in the modern world. He was stuck in the 50s, which made him slow regarding new tech. Still, despite all that, he was a force to be reckoned with until Spider-Man finally managed to outsmart him. Digger's strange mix of raw power, endless durability, and outdated knowledge made him a terrifying opponent. But in the end, he wasn't invincible, just very hard to keep down. Charlemagne. Then we have Charlemagne, or Charlie, on the list, a character who didn't quite get the happy ending she deserved. A former Soviet spy who went rogue, she became a tragic figure with a brief, complicated romance with Wolverine. After betraying the KGB, her former employers weren't too thrilled. They sent assassins after her, and she knew she was as good as dead. In a twist of fate, Charlemagne's death wasn't exactly her choice, but it was her plan. She got caught in a messy fight between Spider-Man and Wolverine. As Spider-Man swung a punch aimed at Wolverine, Charlemagne threw herself into the punch's path. The blow was so decisive she didn't survive it. It wasn't Spider-Man's fault, but he never forgave himself. You see, she wanted to die this way to avoid torture from her former masters. No doubt, it was a haunting moment for Spider-Man, the first life he'd ever taken. Although he had fought and defeated plenty of bad guys before, Charlemagne's death stuck with him. It left a mark, and he never quite forgave himself. Tragic? Definitely. But it showed just how deeply a hero can be affected by the lives they touch. Gwen Stacy. Now, let's talk about one of the saddest moments in Spider-Man history, where things went wrong for Peter Parker. Gwen Stacy, his love, was taken by none other than the Green Goblin. The twisted villain throws her off a bridge, watching her fall toward the water below. Spider-Man, being Spider-Man, swings into action to save her. But here's the kicker. In trying to catch her with his web, he causes her neck to snap. Yes, you heard that right. He accidentally killed the woman he loved while trying to save her. Unfortunately, the moment is heartbreaking. Spider-Man didn't want this, but his webbing stopped Gwen so suddenly that it was enough to kill her instantly. Meanwhile, the Green Goblin watches it all and rubs salt into the wound, gloating that Spider-Man was the one who killed Gwen, not him. This dark, tragic event, dubbed The Night Gwen Stacy Died, remains one of the most devastating in Spider-Man's history. Morlun. Morlun is one of Spider-Man's most dangerous enemies. This guy isn't just sticking to one version of Spider-Man. Nope, he's going across dimensions to hunt down every version of our favorite web slinger. And guess what? He managed to kill one of them. But don't worry, his story ends in a way that's just as wild as his mission. In one version of the tale, Peter Parker gets infected with a nasty disease that transforms him into a spider-like creature. Unable to resist his new instincts, Peter becomes the Spider and takes down Morlun in one seriously gruesome fight. Yikes. Meanwhile, in another battle, from 2001's The Amazing Spider-Man number 35, Spider-Man faces Morlun, figuring out that the radioactive spider bite he got is his secret weapon. Spider-Man gives Morlun a taste of that radioactive punch, leaving the villain on the brink of death. But just when Spider-Man has him, he gets distracted. Fast forward, and Spider-Man does end up killing Morlun. But hey, we can't count that twice, can we? Morlun may have been brutal, but Spider-Man cannot back down. Arthur Ward. Arthur Ward's story is one of those twists where the past catches up with you in a big way. After the 1999 relaunch of Spider-Man, we meet this politician, Arthur Ward, who has some seriously dark ties to Spider-Man's past. It turns out, Ward used to work with Arthur Stacy, the brother of Captain George Stacy, who was also Gwen Stacy's uncle. They were CIA agents tasked with shutting down a Hydra base. However, Ward made a deal with the Xenox, an alien race, who infected him with a symbiote that not only brought him back to life, but also wiped his memory clean. Fast forward, and Ward's now a powerful politician who can create deadly pathogens. Spider-Man, along with Ranger, has to team up to stop him. In The Amazing Spider-Man number 24, things get ugly. They use Ward's own body to create an antidote for his deadly pathogen, which, unfortunately for Ward, ends up killing him. Irony at its finest. Whisper. Whisper was one of those villains who couldn't catch a break. Introduced in Web of Spider-Man #91 in 1992, Whisper had a unique power. He could absorb sound. Imagine being in a fight where you can't even hear your footsteps. Talk about creepy. He used this power to become nearly invisible to his opponents, sneaking around with bladed swords and daggers. But his powers weren't his only perk. He also had a suit that made him pretty tough, blocking bullets and giving him some extra strength. And what about his end? During a fight with Spider-Man, things went south fast. As Spider-Man dodged bullets from Whisper's accomplice, Pulse, he pulled Whisper into the line of fire. The result was, well, Pulse technically killed Whisper, but Spider-Man made it happen. Spider-Man's spider sense should have let him avoid the whole mess, but in the end, he walked away unscathed, while Whisper didn't. It wasn't Spider-Man's direct blow, but he was involved in the villain's demise. Later, Whisper's allies, Pulse and Swift 1, try to mess with the Foreigner, but they're quickly defeated thanks to Spider-Man. Talk about a messed up day for everyone involved. Modular Man. Modular Man was a villain who didn't quite get the chance to show off his full potential. In Marvel Team-Up number 90, released in 1980, he teamed up with Killer Shrike to take down Spider-Man and Beast, but things took a shocking turn. Spider-Man, usually known for his strong moral code, grabbed Killer Shrike's gauntlets and turned them on Modular Man, causing him to explode. Beyond this, it was a massive moment for Spider-Man, who typically avoids killing. He later feels the weight of his actions, but he can't undo the death of Modular Man. It's one of those rare, out-of-character moments that makes fans talk to this day. Moondark. Finally, Moondark is a villain who got into a lot of trouble by being a sorcerer and messing with the wrong heroes. First showing up in Marvel Team-Up number 12 in 1973, Moondark made life difficult for Spider-Man and Jack Russell. But in a rather bizarre turn, Spider-Man kicked him through a portal, sending Moondark plummeting off the Golden Gate Bridge to his apparent death. Here's where things get interesting, or a little weird. Spider-Man, typically the one making the jokes, cracks one at Moondark's expense while he's falling. No biggie, right? But Spider-Man doesn't think Moondark could have survived, though there's always a chance in the Marvel Universe. But Moondark wasn't done yet. After he died, his otherworldly masters resurrected him. They weren't doing it out of kindness. They wanted Moondark to collect souls, and he created a handy-dandy soul orb to do just that. Unfortunately for Moondark, he made the mistake of capturing Ghost Rider's soul, which led to his downfall. Realizing something was off at a carnival, Spider-Man freed Ghost Rider and the captured souls together. The consequences were terrible for Moondark. He was dragged back into the spirit world by his masters. Speaking of power, Moondark's powers include illusions, mind control, teleportation, and using his soul orb to trap souls under his control. But at the end of the day, messing with heroes like Spider-Man and Ghost Rider isn't the most brilliant move. If you've made it this far, thank you very much. Let me know in the comment if the characters Spider-Man killed were justified. See you in the next one.